to the pitch of Discontent. This is Owen back again, solo once more for the released Roundup. Yes, Paige will not be joining us for this episode. We recently had a farm stay baby moon weekend away, which was very relaxing, very chill, sitting by the fireplace, reading books, going on little adventures, drinking coffee. It was very good. Okay. It was a fun time. It was a chill time. And she's still in that frame of mind. She's still in that mode. She wants to be on holiday. She wants to be baby mooning. So I thought I'd rock this one solo, give her a little bit more of a break as she kind of gradually rolls down to a full term and delivers our baby. So you've just got me on this episode. I hope that's okay. I hope that's suitable for people. But look, I had a fun baby moon, so I don't have any regrets. I like campfires. I like letting Reese off leash and letting him run around in a paddock and talk to cows and ducks and sheep. It was a fun time. Okay. Uh, Before we get into tracks for this week, I have some new releases that we should probably shout out that we should go through at the top of the show. So to kick those off, we have friends of the show Identity Era. They're a Nam/Melbourne metalcore outfit who we had on the show. If you haven't already checked that one out, I'll put a link up here somewhere. You should go check out that episode out. We had a chat with Lachlan and Kat from the band about this EP. The EP is called You Still Have Tomorrow. It's the band's debut EP. It's really great. Some of their best ever material, some pre-release singles in there as well. If you like any kind of modern metalcore, but also kind of that classic mid 2000s metalcore, this will be right up your alley. Highly recommend checking it out. We also have the debut record from a band called Brooklyn Comic, who I featured on the show a couple of weeks ago. They're like an alt rock, emo, punk, whatever kind of band from Australia. The record is called Define Happiness, and this thing rules. I listened to it in full the other day. The immediate sonic reference point that I have is Chemical Miracle era Trophy Eyes. So, like 2016 era Trophy Eyes. Uh, Really, really good songwriting, really catchy songwriting, vulnerable lyricism, with a couple of just good like yells and screams in there to kind of add a bit of grit and contrast. Really, really sick. Highly recommend checking it out. Really great debut record. We also have the new record from Warp. They're a Nam/Melbourne Doom trio. Yeah, I got that right. Doom trio. The record is called Power Held in Stone. We also featured this one on the show a couple of weeks ago. If you like any kind of doom metal, any kind of slow, methodical, great kind of crescendo riff moments, and those like spooky kind of occultish sounding vocals and chants and any kind of like drone adjacent stuff, suss this one out. It's going to be for you. It's very, very good. And then the final one I have to shout out is a new find for me. This is a band called Deprived Of. Fairly certain they're from Queensland, Toowoomba, if I'm not mistaken. But they put out a debut record called Afterglow. And this is really cool, like alternative, shoegaze, post hardcore sort of blend. Really, really cool. Very, very surprised to find a new band that kind of cohesive from the jump on their debut record. But it was really, really cool. So highly recommend shouting out that record, or I have shouted it out, so you should now check it out. It's probably the better way to put it. Those are the ones I wanted to shout out at the top of the show. All Aussie bands, by the way. So that's pretty sick. Go check out some of the great local talent that we have in this country. And without any further ado, let's just get into the tracks for this release roundup, episode 245. Let's fucking go. Hello, Owen popping in to say, please sign up for the TPD Patreon. This is what helps us keep the lights on and keep the show going. The link is at the bottom of your screen right now, patreon.com/tpdpod. All of our patrons get exclusive access to Side B of our Roundup episodes, so you get a few extra tracks, as well as our feature album discussion and the full show experience. Patrons also get exclusive access to behind-the-scenes, off-the-cuff chit-chat from all of our guest episodes. But the patrons are the ones who make all of this happen. For as little as $5 a month, you can sign up to the TPD Patreon, and it really helps us out, really helps us keep the show going. So shout out to all of our patrons, shout out to our executive producer patrons, you're the real ones, and yeah, thank you so much for watching the show. All right, let's go. Let's do side A for the release roundup this week. First off the bat, we have a new track from punk legend AFI. They are back on a new album cycle. The album is called Silver Bleeds, The Black Sun. It's due out on October 3rd by Run for Cover Records and Civilians for domestic release here in Australia. This is the band's 12th album, which is pretty fucking wild. And it is billed as, quote, a bold new era for the iconic band, an album that feels out of time, at once familiar and fresh, drawing on classic sounds and reinterpreting them through a modern lens. Silver Bleeds the Black Sun is dark and otherworldly, but also grandiose and stately, biting and beautiful in equal measure. In other words, it's very AFI, yet not quite like any version of the band you've ever heard before. And I think, yeah, all of that really speaks to me. I think AFI are a band that refuses to kind of put out the same record twice. They're always evolving, they're always moving in new directions, folding in new sounds and artistic ideas, aesthetic visions, all that sort of stuff. They're a big picture band, right? They're always trying to look beyond what's come before and kind of boldly throwing themselves into a new kind of creative vision. So I appreciate that. Did I listen to the last record that much? Not really. Enjoyed it. Didn't really go back to it. So I'll be interested to see if Silver Bleeds the Black Sun has a little bit more staying power. But let's have a listen to the lead single from this album. So this is AFI, Behind the Clock. Fascinating turn of events for AFI. I guess, does this sound like the AFI that I would expect in 2025? Pretty much. I mean, thinking about the band and their kind of sonic evolution, reaching this point in their career does make a lot of sense. You have the early records in the 90s, the Nitro Records era, which was very scrappy, very kind of punk, and then moving into the late 90s, 2000s, they really kind of hit a dark, gothic, melodic punk kind of verve, and that's when the band really started to grow, received a lot of popularity. By the mid 2000s, they kind of embraced the emo and post-hardcore kind of wave that was cresting at that particular time. Sorrow, December Underground, and some of their most commercially successful records. And kind of since that point, they've kind of grown as musicians, as creative, and really kind of rested on, I think, some of their very early influences, which is why this song has a very kind of like Joy Division kind of pull to it. You know, the verses there, very mid-tempo, a very kind of locked-in, driving, plodding bass line. Dave is doing kind of Curtis, post-punk, very kind of delivery. And then when things really go bright, pop, chorus, you get that kind of classic Dave Havoc range, very triumphant. So I think it's working as far as I can tell. I'm really kind of interested to see what they do with the record, and if this is kind of the statement of intent, or if this is just a taste of things to come, and things are getting more weird, more adventurous. Yeah. Remains to be seen. But I think the thing that I really need to talk about is the interview that Davey did with the editor of Alternative Press, which was a very like professionally shot kind of multicam interview. Everyone on the internet was losing their fucking minds over Davey's new look. I will throw up images and video on the screen for you to see that for yourself. Uh, and look, the man is aging. He's doing whatever the fuck he wants. He's clearly just in his element and vibing and feeling himself, and I respect all of that. I saw people comparing, they were like clickbaity articles comparing like what Davey Havoc looked like before and what he looks like now, and they were using shots from 2006 and December Underground as the comparison. And I was just like, yeah, that was 20 fucking years ago. Like, if you put a photo of me and then my MySpace photo from 2007, those two things look very fucking different. So, yeah, I guess the man has aged. He has a different look. I don't know what else to tell you. Also, in that interview, there's like clips that they've published where he just has his nipple out and he's just doing like a full nipple slip. I understand that he's wearing like a big gaping V-neck type thing, but surprised that no one was like, "Excuse me, Mr. Havoc, your entire nipple is out. Can we fix that? Can we sort that out?" But I don't know. I mean, I guess it got clicks. Certainly got my attention. So maybe that was the desired effect. Who knows? But keen to hear what's on the new record. That's all I gotta say. Let's move on now. I want to talk about Aussie melodic punk rock outfit Secret World. They have announced a new EP. This one is called Tomorrow is a Mystery to Me. It's coming out on September 19th through Last Ride Records for Australia and New Zealand, Sunday Drive Records for the US, and then Ice Grills for Japan. So a nice multi continent release rollout for them. If you're not familiar with Secret World, this is a band that has members in Speed, Trophy Eyes, Downside, a bunch of Sydney and Newcastle alternative and hardcore acts. They formed in 2023. They put out an EP in 2024 called Guilt is Good. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that we would have covered that EP. I thought it was dope. I thought the singles were dope. The pedigree of the band is quite high, so you would expect that the material they're putting out is already kind of fully formed and fully realized. The stuff for this new EP is no exception. They've got a lead single out called Good Faith, and this one is a fucking banger, an absolute banger. But I've got a quote here from the label press release that says, "Tomorrow is a mystery to me, builds upon Secret World's rock and roll foundation with the urgency of hardcore punk and hook-laden choruses drawn from alt rock sensibilities. While the EP is filled with emotive storytelling and extended anecdotes, it paints a clear picture of a band who are intent on seizing this moment, pushing forward with purpose, and giving it their absolute all." I think that is pretty much what it says on the tin. I can't really fault them for that kind of statement of intent. But as I said, lead single is a banger. So if that's kind of what we're working with, I think the whole EP is going to rock. But I want to play it for you. So let's have a listen. This is Secret World, Good Faith.
So good faith to the wayside. You'll burn any bridge you see. You've been going through a lot of hard times. You keep losing out on sleep. No trust left with those around you. In the company you keep. So good faith to the wayside. You'll burn any bridge you see.
Man, what I would have given to be in the studio when they wrote that fucking hook. Chorus is simply off its head. It's so catchy, it's so good, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but in the second verse there, we had a guest feature from none other than Sydney royalty, Shogun of Royal Headache, Antenna, 20 other bands that he's a part of. But getting Shogun on the track, I think, was a fucking primo move. He kills the feature, fits the vibe of the song perfectly, and just having that contrast of different voices really kind of adds to the richness, kind of texture of the song. But simply cannot get over how good that chorus is. Might be one of the best choruses I've heard this. Fucking unreal. So stoked for Secret World. Stoked for them to put out a new EP. I believe they're going to head to the US and they're playing as main support to High-Vis on a bunch of shows. So that's cool for them. Going to have another big year in 2025. And yeah, Good Faith. Fucking banger. Banger. All right, let's move on. Another track for side A this week. We have UK heavy merchants Death Goals. They are dropping a forthcoming EP. It's called Survival is an Act of Defiance. I have a quote here from guitarist and vocalist Harry Bailey, who says, quote, "The phrase, even a worm can turn, appeared in numerous books I'd been reading, and it really resonated with me. The queer community is not violent nor malicious. However, due to the rise in animosity against us, we are being riled up and made to protect ourselves with greater force. This idea inspired the message and ideals that became the Survival." I think that's a really kind of pertinent message. Obviously, trans rights are a big issue in the UK for some fucking reason and are being weaponized against trans people for reasons that aren't really clear to me, apart from just people wanting to exist and have the same personal liberties and freedom that non trans people have. But for some reason, that's incredibly divisive. So I can understand wanting to stand with that community and support them, and how this particular situation in your home country has fueled the creative inspiration that you find on this particular EP. If you're not familiar with Death Goals, do a bunch of different heavy stuff: metalcore, sludge metal, post hardcore, more abrasive kind of extreme metal. It's all kind of in there. They do a bunch of different stuff. This one is probably their most straightforward and aggressive, but it rocks. The EP, again, is Survival is an Act of Defiance. It's going out through self release on August 29th, at the end of this month. Let's have a listen to the single. This is Death Goals, Even a Worm Can Turn. Love a good little dissonant guitar lick there. This one to me sounds very like specifically Vanity era AT Vision. I know that's like a very specific reference point, but that was just going through my head. It's a short rager. It's only like a minute and 20 seconds for like an 80-second banger. But I think, considering the quote from Harry and about lyrical context of the song, like, it's piss and it's angry and it's volatile for very good reason. And I think that they've created something that is politically charged, that is aggressive, and it speaks to the lyrical intent and the thought behind the song. I was actually reading that there's a whole bunch of queer guest vocalists that appear across the EP, Survival is an Act of Defiance. You've got members of the HIRS Collective, Burner, Canehurst, Victim Unit, a whole bunch of different bands. So Death Goals have made this a collective, collaborative effort, not only to speak against injustices against the trans community in the UK and at large, but to also get voices from that community, to get queer representation, get them on the EP, get them on tracks, and have them be politically charged and aggressive as well, which I think is sick. That speaks to the whole communal kind of apparatus that we're working with here when it comes to heavy music and supporting each other. So that's dope. Looking forward to the EP. Let's move on now to the next one for side A. We have legendary emo outfit, Algernon Cadwallader. I had to pause and look at my notes. I'm sorry, but I always fuck that up, both in my head and when I say it out loud. So I had to make sure I was getting it right. Algernon Cadwallader. They're back. They're coming through with a new record. I did not have this on my 2025 bingo card, but here we are. The record is called Trying Not to Have a Thought, and it is the first Algernon Cadwallader album since 2011's Parrot Flies, but it's also the first with the original OG lineup that was on the seminal 2008 debut Some Kind of Cadwallader, which is kind of, I would say, linked to, and I've seen it published as one of the preludes to the 2010 emo revival and post hardcore revival. Algernon are a band that I see referenced a lot in third, fourth, fifth wave emo outfits as that's the band that we loved that we were trying to replicate and use as inspiration for our material. So that makes sense. I have a quote here from vocalist bassist Peter Helmus, who says, quote, I almost see it as fate that it boiled us down to this core, our original form. There's a certain magic to that that couldn't really be replicated. Well said. I also have a quote here from the label press release that says, quote, whereas some reunion records sound stilted, forced, this record sounds resplendently natural. The production warm and lively, the musicianship congenial yet exacting, and the hooks effortlessly sticky. An Algernon Cadwallader album that's leisurely, intensely, tremendously their own. Beautiful. No notes. Love a good press bio. Let's have a listen to the lead single, and that way we can see what Algernon are working with in 2025. This is Algernon Cadwallader, Hawk.
How much of our lives did we spend side by side, playing with pocket knives, carving out our space in life? Afternoons spent wrestling, couches together to form a ring, traded up for instruments, sold our soul, it was common sense. I don't know if the devil
And it really is pretty much exactly like that press bio said. It is leisurely, breezy, kind of effortless, and I think kind of mentioning the links to like the emo revival that happened pretty much essentially as the band broke up in 2012, and then generations of people kind of carried that very specific reference point for a decade and a half until the band kind of got back together. It's very interesting to me. You can definitely pick up on all of these little kind of tropes, for a lack of a better word, that speak to the particular band. Got the twinkly guitar, got the kind of shouted vocal, got the very kind of subdued harmonies, not overblown, but very kind of back. There's also like some kind of synth organ type stuff kind of buried in the mix here. Super interesting. I'm very excited to hear the new record, but what can I say? Stoked to have Algernon back with some of the emo great. The fact that they're doing it with the aging lineup shows me that they kind of had a yearning, desire to get back on stage, do what they had done nearly 20 years ago. So kudos to them. Final track for side A of this episode of the release roundup. We have Aussie post-punk sensation Dust. Love Dust. I've talked about them on the show a bunch of times, but stoked for this band to be back with some new material, and they have finally announced their debut full-length album, highly anticipated. This one is called Sky is Falling, and it's dropping on October 10th through K9 Records. I have a quote here from bandleader Justin Teal explaining the impetus behind the album's lead single. He says, quote, Drawbacks is about everyday feelings and thoughts, the one experiences leaning towards the ones that make you confused or in doubt, feelings of shame and regret in social surroundings where you should feel comfortable and you can't shake off the head noise. I guess this song is a way of talking to myself in the same way I do with my thoughts without sounding pretentious. Excellently put, Justin. I think I'm just going to jump straight in and play this one for you, but I do have some thoughts on Dust and this that we'll talk about once we play the song. So let's just do that. This is Dust, Drawbacks.
Dive for the worst part onto the next. You got the all star feeling that you cannot express. Is it a right, wrong time? But we take our guess. All these people have something that we want to impress. I got a more locked in than I did back then. When they give you one finger, then you give them all 10. It's the same, but it's always been.
There you have it. Dust, Drawbacks. I think that this song is great as a preview for what they're going to be working with on the debut record. But I will say that it feels like the production is kind of tempering some of the energy that came through previous songs, particularly on the EP, etc., etc. where it felt like there was a little bit more vibrancy and I want to say like busyness, not in like a negative way. Just felt like there was a lot happening in production, layers of presentation. Whereas drawbacks, it feels like everything's kind of a little bit more level, a little put together. It isn't necessarily a bad thing. I just think it's an interesting production choice. I feel like it starts off super strong, with that kind of like energetic, full rolling hi hat, and then it kind of like locks into a fairly good tempo throughout the rest of the track with brass instruments kind of acting as right kind of counterpoint way across. Uh, Having seen Dust in flesh, the live show is phenomenal. The energy that they all have on stage, the vibe that the different members have together, it's I think difficult to replicate on record. So I'm not surprised that this one is kind of just like bursting out of the mix, high energy. But I also think that they have done a hell of a lot of touring, done a lot of overseas stuff, a lot of domestic tours, played with some big bands, supported Interpol, Rock Party, a bunch of others. So like, I think they're just a little bit more confident, self-assured, and for a debut record, that's exactly. So I feel like even if the production feels like a little bit more measured, I don't think it's necessarily bad. But I'm into it. Drawbacks, great taste of what Dust are working with, and very, very keen to hear the full record and see where that goes. Yeah. That brings me to the end of side A this week. Apologies if I've just been breezing through this one, but I want to get into the edit. I want to get this one up. I want to make sure that we can get through these tracks in a timely fashion. I'm going to jump on over to side B. You can get access to side B and the full release roundup over on Patreon. That link is at the bottom of your screen right now, patreon.com/tpdpod. You get the full release roundups. You get behind the scenes content from our guest episodes. You get early previews of the Dispatch Bay episodes where possible. You get some clues as to what I'm working on for bigger picture videos. I've got some video essay stuff in the can. Trying to keep things lively over there. It's only, $3, $5. I don't know what the exchange rate is like, but it's a couple of dollars a month. You get access to all of that stuff. Helps us keep the lights on, support the show, all of that good stuff. Thank you to the patrons. Shout out to you guys. You are the real ones. Let's move on to side B, and yeah, I'll catch you all later.